The day after my mother's funeral, I found a sealed letter hidden inside the wall of our old house. Across the front, it read, "If Sienna finds this, run before he knows. My name is Sienna Parker. I'm 27 years old. The hardest day of my life wasn't the day my mother died. It was the day I returned to the house we'd shared for 27 years. The silence was unbearable. Every room still smelled like her lavender perfume. Her reading glasses rested on the kitchen table, exactly where she'd left them. I couldn't bring myself to move them. The funeral had ended only hours earlier. Friends and relatives had gone home. For the first time, I was completely alone. I decided to clean the house, not because I wanted to, because I didn't know what else to do. Late that evening, I noticed something strange in my mother's bedroom. One section of wallpaper had started peeling away. She had always kept that corner covered by an old wooden bookshelf. Curious, I moved it aside. Behind it, there was a loose wooden panel. My heart started racing. I carefully pried it open. Inside was a small metal box covered in dust. The key was taped underneath. When I unlocked it, there was only one thing inside: a yellow envelope. My name was written across the front: Sienna Parker. Below it, in my mother's handwriting, were 8 terrifying words. "If you find this, leave immediately. Don't tell anyone." My hands began shaking. I had never seen my mother's handwriting look so rushed. I slowly opened the envelope. Inside was a single folded letter. The first sentence made my blood run cold. "Sienna, if you're reading this, it means he finally knows where you are." I froze. Who was he? Before I could read another word, someone knocked on my front door. 3 slow knocks. Then a man's voice. "Miss Parker, I'm here because your mother told me this day would come." As I looked through the peephole, the man standing outside was holding an old photograph of my mother, standing beside a little girl who wasn't me. I didn't move. The man waited quietly outside my front door. One hand rested in his coat pocket. The other held the faded photograph. Every instinct told me not to open the door. "Who are you?" I asked through the wood. "My name is Daniel Hayes. I was your mother's attorney." My heart skipped. My mother never had a lawyer. There was a long silence. That's exactly what she wanted everyone to believe. I tightened my grip on the letter. "How do I know you're telling the truth?" Instead of answering, he slid a small leather wallet under the door. Inside was an old identification card. His picture matched the man outside. Behind it was a business card: Daniel Hayes, estate attorney. Then I noticed something else. Folded behind the card was an old hospital bracelet. The name printed on it made my knees weak: Baby Girl Parker. Date: 27 years ago. Exactly the day I was born. Slowly, I unlocked the door. Daniel stepped inside but kept his distance. He carefully handed me the photograph. The moment I saw it, I couldn't breathe. My mother was smiling. Standing beside her was another little girl. She looked exactly like me. Same brown eyes, same dark hair, same tiny crescent-shaped birthmark on her wrist. On the back of the photograph, my mother's handwriting read, "Forgive me, I could only save one." "What does this mean?" I whispered. Daniel lowered his eyes. "Your mother spent 27 years protecting you." "Protecting me from who?" He looked directly at me. "Your biological father." My stomach turned. "My father died before I was born." Daniel slowly shook his head. "No, that's the lie she told to keep you alive." The room fell silent. I looked back at the photograph. "If this little girl isn't me, who is she?" Daniel answered without hesitation. "Your sister." Tears filled my eyes. "I have a sister?" "You do. Where is she?" His face grew pale. "We've been searching for her for 27 years. Before I could ask another question, the lights inside my house suddenly went out. Every room fell into complete darkness. Then someone knocked again. 3 slow knocks. But Daniel was standing beside me. Neither of us had moved. A woman's voice came from the other side of the door. Soft, almost trembling. "Sienna, please don't let him know I found you first." Daniel grabbed my arm before I could reach the handle. "Don't open it." His voice was calm, but I could hear the fear behind it. The woman outside knocked again. "Sienna, I don't have much time. I came to save you." My heart pounded against my ribs. Daniel shook his head. "She's lying. She works for him." The woman immediately answered through the door. "Daniel is the one who's lying. He has been hiding the truth from you for years." I looked from the front door to Daniel. Neither of them sounded afraid of each other. They sounded afraid of what I might learn. I slowly backed away. "I won't open this door until one of you tells me what's happening." Silence. Then the woman spoke again. Sienna, look inside your mother's letter. There's another page. I frowned. Another page. I quickly unfolded the letter again. At first it looked like only one sheet, but tucked behind it was a second piece of paper folded much smaller. My hands trembled as I opened it. Only one sentence was written there. Never trust the first person who finds you. My blood ran cold. I slowly lifted my eyes toward Daniel. He noticed my expression. What does it say? I didn't answer. Instead, I quietly slipped the paper into my pocket. The woman outside spoke again. She warned you, didn't she? Daniel's face suddenly changed. For the first time, he looked nervous. I think it's time for me to leave. He reached for his briefcase. That single movement made every alarm in my head go off. If you're trying to help me, why are you leaving now? He hesitated, because he already knows where this house is. The lights suddenly came back on. At the exact same moment, a black SUV rolled slowly past the front window. Then another. Then a third. They didn't stop. They simply circled a block. Daniel looked through the curtains. His face turned white. They're here. Who? He found you. Without another word, Daniel hurried toward the back door. The woman outside began pounding on the front door. Sienna, don't let him leave. He's carrying the only evidence your mother died trying to protect. I spun toward Daniel. What evidence? He froze. His briefcase slipped from his hand. It hit the floor. The lock burst open. Hundreds of papers scattered across the living room. Birth certificates, medical records, court documents, and one thick file with a red stamp across the front. Confidential. Project Echo. I picked it up. Beneath the title, I saw my own photograph. And underneath it, one sentence that stole every bit of air from my lungs. Subject Sienna Parker was never supposed to survive. Before I could turn the first page, a gunshot shattered the front window. Someone outside screamed, "Don't let her read the file." The gunshot shattered the front window. Glass exploded across the living room. I dropped to the floor, clutching the red file against my chest. Daniel tackled me behind the couch. Another bullet ripped through the wall above us. "Stay down," he shouted. Outside, tires screeched. Men were running toward the house. The woman at the front door kicked it open and rushed inside. She wasn't holding a weapon. She was holding a little silver key. "Take this," she yelled. Daniel stood between us. "No, she's working for him." The woman glared at him. If I worked for him, she'd already be dead. For a split second, neither of them moved. I realized something terrifying. Both of them wanted the file, but neither wanted me to read it. I crawled toward the hallway while they argued. The baby monitor in my bedroom suddenly crackled. A man's voice came through the speaker. "We have the child." My heart stopped. I sprinted upstairs. The nursery door was wide open. The crib was empty. No. My knees buckled. The blanket was lying on the floor. The baby's favorite stuffed rabbit had been torn in half. A small black card rested inside the crib. I picked it up. Only one sentence was written on it. "Bring Project Echo, or you'll never see her again." Tears blurred my vision. "They took her," I whispered. Downstairs, Daniel grabbed the card from my hands. "They're forcing you to trade the file." The woman looked at me. "Don't. If they get Project Echo, thousands of innocent lives will be destroyed." I stared at both of them. "What is Project Echo?" Neither answered. I slammed the file onto the table. "I'm done being lied to. My mother is dead. My sister is missing. A baby has been kidnapped. And everyone keeps telling me half the truth. I want all of it." Daniel slowly opened the file. Inside were photographs. Dozens of children. Every picture had a number beneath it. No names, only numbers. Then I found mine. Subject 17. Next to it was my birth photograph. Below it, a sentence typed in bold black letters. One twin was selected. The other was marked for termination. My hands started shaking. What does that mean? The woman finally whispered the words my mother had spent 27 years hiding. "Sienna, you and your sister were never ordinary children. You were born inside a secret government experiment." Before I could ask another question, my phone rang. A video call. Unknown number. When I answered, the kidnapped baby appeared on the screen. Then a masked man smiled and said, "You have 1 hour to choose. The file or the child." The video call froze. My little niece was tied safely inside what looked like an abandoned warehouse. She wasn't crying. She simply looked terrified. The masked man smiled into the camera. If you call the police, the baby dies. The screen went black. I couldn't breathe. Daniel closed the laptop. They'll track this call. The mysterious woman looked at me. We have less than an hour. I grabbed the Project Echo file. I'm taking it. Daniel blocked the front door. If you hand them that file, everything your mother died protecting will be destroyed. I looked him straight in the eyes. And if I don't, my niece dies. Neither of them answered. For the first time, the room fell completely silent. Then the woman walked over and gently placed her hand on my shoulder. My name is Evelyn. My mother worked with yours. She made me promise, if this day ever came, I would protect you. I swallowed hard. Then help me save her. Evelyn nodded. There may be another way. She flipped through the Project Echo file. Hidden inside the back cover was a folded map. One location had been circled in red. An abandoned children's hospital. Daniel's face immediately changed. I know that place. That's where Project Echo started. And that's where your father built his private archives. Evelyn pointed to a handwritten note at the bottom. The originals never left the vault. Daniel looked at me. This file is only a copy. My eyes widened. You mean the originals are still inside the hospital? He nodded. If we destroy the originals, the copies become worthless. For the first time, hope returned. We can save the baby and stop them. Daniel smiled. Exactly. 40 minutes later, the three of us arrived outside the abandoned hospital. The building looked deserted. Broken windows, rusted gates, vines covered the walls. But inside, the lights were on. Someone was waiting. As we quietly entered the basement, I heard a familiar voice. You're late. I froze. Standing beside the masked man was someone I never expected to see again. The woman from my mother's funeral. She slowly removed her hood and smiled. My name isn't Evelyn. She turned toward me. I'm your mother's sister. My heart stopped. She nodded. Your aunt. Then she pointed toward the masked man. And that's not the man you should fear. She slowly looked behind me. Sienna, don't turn around. I turned anyway. Daniel was pointing a gun directly at my back. Daniel smiled without a trace of guilt. Then he whispered the words that shattered everything I believed. Your mother never hired me. I've been working for your father from the very beginning. Daniel's words echoed through the empty hospital. The gun in his hand never wavered. I couldn't believe it. For 27 years, he had pretended to protect my mother. All along, he had been helping the man who destroyed her life. I slowly raised my hands. So every letter, every clue, it was all a lie. Daniel smiled. No, your mother was smarter than both of us. He pointed toward the Project Echo vault. She knew I'd eventually lead someone here. My aunt suddenly stepped forward. No! Before Daniel could react, she shoved me behind a concrete pillar. The gun fired. The sound echoed through the basement. My aunt collapsed into my arms. Blood stained her jacket. She grabbed my hand. Sienna, listen carefully. She slipped a tiny brass key into my palm. The real secret is never inside the file. She pointed toward the massive steel vault. The key opens the second compartment. With her last strength, she whispered, your mother loved you both. Then her hand fell still. Tears blurred my vision. Daniel rushed toward the vault. Give me the key. Instead, I ran. I reached the vault just seconds before him. The small brass key fit perfectly. The hidden compartment clicked open. Inside, there wasn't money. There wasn't evidence. There was a video recorder. I pressed play. My mother's face appeared on the screen. She smiled through tears. Hello, Sienna. If you're watching this, it means I couldn't protect you anymore. She looked directly into the camera. Project Echo was never a government experiment. It was your father's private operation. He kidnapped children, changed their identities, and sold them to powerful families around the world. Daniel's face turned white. My mother continued. Every name, every victim, every payment is hidden inside this recorder. Police sirens suddenly echoed above us. Daniel turned to run, but it was too late. Armed officers flooded the basement. Federal agents, drop your weapon. Daniel was arrested within seconds. Another team rescued the baby from a hidden room upstairs. When Savannah held her daughter again, neither of us could stop crying. Months later, the recordings exposed one of the largest child trafficking networks in the country's history. Dozens of children were reunited with their real families. My father spent the rest of his life behind bars. Daniel received the same sentence. As for me, I finally understood why my mother hid that letter for 27 years. She wasn't protecting a secret. She was protecting me. Every birthday, Savannah, my niece, and I visit my mother's grave together. We leave 3 white roses, one for the woman who sacrificed everything, one for the sister she saved, and one for the family we finally became.